Well, Roxham Road, which Justin Trudeau declared open in a tweet shortly after his election, it's being closed. And thousands of migrants who had planned to come from New York City as the staging ground to cross the Canadian border, well, they're backed up in the United States, including in New York itself. Now, New York is an enormous city, the largest city in the United States, and it has its own problems, including its own homeless problem. New York City, being a Democrat city, proudly declares itself a sanctuary city. By that they mean they will not deport, they will not assist in the deportation of illegal migrants. They say things like, no one is illegal. Well, that's easy to say when the illegals are at border crossings in places like Texas. But what happens when thousands of foreign migrants start to bottleneck in New York because Trudeau is no longer taking them through Roxham Road? What happens to them? What are their plans? Well, we sent two reporters to New York City to find out. I'm talking about Alexa Lavoie and Lincoln Jay, both of whom have reported on the Roxham Road crossing. They're in New York, and they found some very interesting things. Joining us now from the streets of the Big Apple is our friend Alexa Lavoie. Alexa, great to see you. I'm sort of jealous. It looks like a lovely spring day in New York City, but it's actually a squalid time for those migrants. Tell us what you've discovered about where they're being housed, how they're being housed, and what's happened to them.
So thanks for inviting me on your show. So right now, what we saw so far, we went to the Roosevelt. It's a hotel where migrants have been housed and still been housed at this hotel. We saw multiple migrants getting in and out of this hotel. Afterwards, we went to that school where some migrant was being housed inside of the gymnasium during that school where children was going into school. And so because of the backlash of the parents knowing about what is going on in that gymnasium, they actually cleaned the school. So no migrant is housing at that school anymore. That was in Coney Island. So now we're in Manhattan, and we are walking through the city to see where the migrant are being housed. So we saw multiple shelters where, unfortunately, homeless told us that if they are not there at 11, buses full of migrants arrive at night, and they take their bed if they didn't sign up for their bed before the bus arrived. This is really sad because what they were explaining is like the resources have diminished. And now they need to find like as help as possible. And they are citizens of New York, or they are citizens of the US. And now they see their rights and what they should have as a services being taken away by the migrant who arrive in New York. We also follow to another hotel where there is security and you are not allowed to enter, but it's writing no vacancy. And they say that is only immigration. 38 room in that small hotel, full book by migrant. And they say that it started beginning of May. And now they don't know until when the old hotel will be rented out by the government to house migrants. And now we are going to see some places where they receive free food. So these organization doesn't receive any help from the government to feed them. So I was talking with some of the organizers and some volunteers, and they say that they never saw that before. They say that they have so many people arriving from all around the world. They don't have any job yet. They don't have place to stay, and they have no food also. So they need to provide them services. But fun fact, you know that the mayor, Eric Adam, was so proud to call himself and his city a sanctuary city. But recently he's been to court to ask the judge to revisit the sanctuary statute of New York City, since now it's getting costly and very chaotic in this city.
You know, Democrats are good at virtue signaling, at telling us how noble they are. They talked a good game about sanctuary cities when all the illegal migrants were in Texas. It's incredible to me that I think I heard you say they were housing them in schools, school gyms during the time when kids were using the schools. That's got to be dangerous. I mean, a lot of schools, if you're an adult, you must check in at the front office. You're not allowed to roam around. I mean, you protect the kids from strangers. Imagine having dozens or hundreds of strangers, not even citizens, just homeless strangers from foreign lands in your school gym. That's crazy. I'm sure the hotel operators won't quarrel because they're obviously getting paid by the government. And, you know, although the homeless themselves can't pay, the government's good for it, so they probably don't mind. We saw that in Canada, too. The thousands and thousands of migrants that came through Roxham Road, they were put up in hotels all around Canada, even in other provinces. Now, you and Lincoln have done some interviews, just interesting people on the street, people you found. Why don't you set up a couple of the clips that you've taken and tell us what they are and then show them to us?
A man who explained his in language in Spanish how it was to cross not only the Darien Gap, where is the really dangerous jungle, saying that they saw like dead body and mercenary, like raping people. And he actually explained also how it was hard to cross into US, and now he's placed in the shelter. Doesn't know how long he can be staying there. Doesn't know like nothing about his work permit or anything, and he's just waiting, chasing food as much as he can go. And he have just the identification paper with him to travel around. And we had like also a homeless person who actually shared his story. So can you describe how the influx of migrants is impacting your life as a homeless person in the shelter?
It's impacted me in different ways, emotionally, mentally, even physically in some ways, because now the food has changed, you know. I'm not getting nutritious meals. Even though I'm receiving public assistance, even that is not enough because of where I'm located. The prices, the cost of living is high. So the money that I do receive each month, I have to really, really, really stretch it out, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So many different testimony of people saying that they spend all their money to come to US, and some of them did pay Coyote to cross. Some of them didn't pay Coyote to cross. But it's sad to hear their story. I'm saying that some people maybe are there for a different reason, but what we saw so far is there's desperate people who doesn't have a job at their where they live. It's kind of dangerous city. A lot of Venezuelan people are here right now. What happened with the migrant with the school that is just behind us?
Well, one night we just saw them bringing in a bunch of buses. It was a bunch of police, and then they waited till people went to sleep. They snuck them in about maybe 5 o'clock in the morning, maybe 3 in the morning. Once we found out about it, because my son goes to the school, you know, I was just concerned for the safety of my son.
So it shouldn't have never allowed to be there. Second of all, they put this in place. They should have had a meeting with the neighborhood, the people live here, and let us know what's going on. Like she said, we don't know who they're bringing there. We don't know who the people is here. You understand?
They are just searching for a better life, but what they get when they arrive in New York is actually almost worse than what they had in their country, living in the street and chasing food when they have like minor children with them. It's just incredible. Like, I don't know if they should like proceed to keep them.
They were using one bathroom. There's only one bathroom in that gym, and there was thousands of them in there. It was they said it was maybe only 600. It had to be more than 600 people in there because the cots, they had cots. They were set up like cots. They were not beds. They were cots, like jail cots, set up in the gym. And there was one bathroom. And they can't even bathe in there. It's not even a shower in there. It was a bathroom, just a bathroom.
They have already a problem of homeless, and now they're getting like more people in the street. And so I'm just thinking, what will happen with the Big Apple when all these migrants will begin homeless forever?
And of course, these are the people that Justin Trudeau said, hey, if you're having problems being homeless or being stateless in New York, come on all up to Canada. So it's interesting that these are Justin Trudeau essentially for 7 years has volunteered to be America's homeless shelter.
I just want to, maybe you heard a quote of a man who actually crossed the Darien jungle, and how dangerous it is for them to cross and to have a better life here in the US. So they are ready to cross everything to get here.
Well, it's very interesting. There's different layers here. I mean, the fact that the American border is absolutely obliterated, there really is no border for any intents and purposes, is newsworthy. Donald Trump would say, I'll build a wall. He of course, had 4 years and did not build a wall. The fact that the sanctuary city Democrats are suddenly now talking back and saying, well, we didn't really mean it, is an incredible story. And I think the sleeper story here is that for 7 years, Canada was the safety valve. We took the migrants from the United States that they were going to deport. It's quite an astonishing thing. Well, listen, keep up the reporting down there. It's a very interesting story. And it's exciting that our team can travel again, because it was only May 11th that unvaccinated Canadians could enter the United States without having to show vaccination status. So many of our team couldn't travel. It's great to be able to travel the world again. Rebel News journalists have covered stories in a dozen countries, and this is an interesting story in New York. It's great to see you down there. Look forward to your safe return.
Thank you. And remember that on May 11th, not only they lift the last health restriction, but they also lift the Title 42 to replace it by Title 8 at the border. And it's why we see probably like a backlash back, because Joe Biden said out loud that it will be chaotic for a while because of the changing of the title at the border.
By the way, folks, if you want to see all of our reports on this issue, go to migrantreports.com. See you soon, Alexa. Thank you. All right, stay with us. Your letters to me next. That was an excerpt from the Ezra Levant Show. I'm Ezra Levant. Every weekday, I do a monologue about the topic of the day. Then I interview a fascinating guest, either in studio or via Skype. And then I read your mail, whether it's fan mail or hate mail, which is sometimes even more interesting. This is on our premium service, though, called Rebel News Plus. Go to rebelnewsplus.com. It's $8 a month or less if you buy a whole year in advance. You get my show every weeknight, plus Sheila Gunn Reid's show every week. It's called The Gun Show. It's pretty amazing. You know, we rely on you because we do not take a dime from the government. In Canada, that makes us almost unique. So please help us out and help yourself to some great journalism at rebelnewsplus.com.